everyone, it's Amanda and I'm back from my holiday and it was great, and now I'm going to review a book that I read while I was on holiday. So that is Game Control by Lionel Shriver. I think most people know Shriver through her book We Need to Talk About Kevin, and also perhaps through some of her controversial opinions and controversial personality maybe, and also her controversial topics. This is actually the first of Shriver's books I've read. Manna from the Thrifty Reader recently did a really good review of We Need to Talk About Kevin, so that made me really want to pick that up, but I owned this one already, so I thought I'd give it a go. So this tells the story of Eleanor Merritt, who is a very liberal sort of do-gooder, as it were, who works in family planning in Africa. And she comes across a man from her past, Calvin Piper, who is an incredibly misanthropic demographer who has been cast out of very high positions in important institutions in the past, and it follows their relationship and how it builds, and also his, in particular, view on population, on different issues. He's obsessed with the idea of overpopulation and sort of looks at both how they change each other and their differing personalities and how that works, but also about his ideas on overpopulation, and is it just all theoretical, or does he maybe have some kind of plan to actually do something about this problem that he perceives. So while it might sound sort of, quite a standard romance relationship novel, it's very, very much a book with demography at its heart, and epidemiology, especially of HIV. So it has a lot of debates about population issues, whether population growth is a burden or a benefit to humanity. There's a lot of intellectual sparring between both him and Eleanor and another character who sees population growth as a benefit, and it takes on a lot of these issues. So because of that, it's quite hard for me to review. I have a postgraduate degree in demography, so a lot of the themes and debates in this book I was very familiar with, so it was quite easy for me to read, whereas someone without that background, I imagine it might be more difficult to get through, because you'd be having to sort of stop to think and maybe understand these arguments. What I will say though is that this book is so amazingly researched. Like, I was blown away by the depth and accuracy of the information that she's got in it. She says in many interviews that she spent like 2 years basically reading and doing all this research, and she might as well have a master's degree in demography with the amount she read, and yeah, I can see that that's true. It's insane the level of detail and knowledge she has about a topic that she doesn't have a formal background in. And another thing to be aware of if you do decide to read this is that these debates are real debates within demography, but just taken obviously to an extreme. And a lot of the names that she drops in it are real demographers. So yeah, that's really interesting, especially if you have an interest in the area. But it does at times make the story feel pretty dry. The first half of the book especially I found quite difficult to get into, partly because of this intellectual sparring and debates, and also because the characters aren't very likeable. Eleanor is very annoying and quite pathetic, really, especially at the beginning of the book. And at times it felt almost difficult to believe them as real people, because they were so extreme, each of the characters. But I think as the book progressed, I started to care a lot more about the characters, and they part of the story is that they begin to change, and that made them a lot more likeable, a lot more relatable. I think actually that Shriver was very clever. She didn't want them to be likeable, she wanted you to feel this way about them. So overall, while it was a negative thing while I was reading it, I think now it's actually very clever, and I'm very impressed by it. And then in terms of the story, again, the first half was quite slow and quite dry, but very important for building up to the second half of the book, in which a lot more of the action happens, and gives you a better basis for the characters and what goes on and so on. So yeah, overall I gave it 4 stars. The first half of the book I'd have actually given it 2, but then the second half was more like 4, and as a whole I felt it deserved a 4, just because of the amount of knowledge and also how it all works as a whole and how the characters change and stuff like that. It's a very, very clever book, and I was really impressed by it. So I'm definitely going to pick up more of Shriver's stuff. Although I would say that probably, I'm saying this even though I haven't read any of her other works, but I'd probably say that this isn't the one to start with, especially if you don't have a background in demography, because it might put you off forever. So yeah, overall I enjoyed it. Gonna read some more. 4 out of 5 stars. Sorry this was so jumbled. It was just quite a difficult one to review. Thanks for watching. Bye.